Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another video tutorial. My name is Drakulic, and in this video tutorial I'm gonna be showing you how you can use the all-new Sunbeams node available in Blender since version 2.72. The Sunbeams node allows for getting those sunbeams or crepuscular rays that are generated by the dust or the humidity in the air. Okay, so we could get the same effect by using full volumetric rendering, but this is a very slow method, and also it's very memory taxing and computer resources demanding. Instead of using full volumetric rendering, we could use a post-processing trick like the Sunbeams node, which will allow us to create exactly to get this effect and in a very adjustable way. But because this is a post-processing effect, so we must take into consideration that it doesn't work by taking into account the 3D data. Instead, it works by taking into account the contrast or the highlights, the contrast between the highlights and the shadows and the midtones of certain areas. So we need first to decide, we need to define which areas of our image, which parts of our image are those parts there that we want for them to have this, to get this sunbeams effect. So for example, in this interior scene, I don't want the sunbeam effect to be over here in these highlighted areas, like around the frame of this of those paintings on the wall. Instead, I need to isolate it, I need to limit it only in the areas around the windows. So that again depends upon your scene. So if you have used let's say a glass material, a refraction material in your scene, well, then you could very easily get this, those highlight areas by just enabling the refraction render pass. But if you hadn't a refraction material, you might need to consider mask out some areas, or again, you might need to consider to tone map your image until you isolate the highlights. So you need to just keep the highlights of your image, and from those highlights, only those ones that you want for them to have the sunbeams effect. So without further ado, let me switch over to the node editor so you can see the final node setup for my sunbeams node. Here it is, the sunbeams node. You can see it. It's a very simple node with 3 sliders, the 2 of them on top. We use them for adjusting the direction or the axis of the sunbeams, whereas the bottom slider, it's the ray length slider, and it is used for adjusting the length of the rays. Alright, but because, as I told you before, it's about a post-processing trick, sometimes you might need to consider to add some tone map nodes after the sunbeam node. Like here I have added an RGB curves node that would allow you to give it a boost to tone map, to accentuate the effect of the sunbeams node, to get a much more vibrant sunbeams or crepuscular rays, as they are called otherwise. Alright, so now I'm going to be deleting all those nodes, and I'm going to start all the way from the start. So delete those nodes there. So here we have our original rendering, and in this scene, because I have used a refraction material, as I told you before, for the glass panels of my windows here, it's rather easy for me to get those highlighted areas around the windows by going over here to the scene panel context, by enabling the refraction render pass. So by doing so, I can show you the effect, or rather the result, if I connect the refraction output socket to the viewer node. So you can see now I have isolated only those areas around the windows, rather inside the windows. Okay, now I need to Shift A, go to the filter, and add the sunbeams node and connect this to the refraction output socket. Alright, so somewhere here. So now nothing really happens until I'm setting the ray length to something higher than 0. Then we've got those rays there, and we can adjust their orientation by playing around with the sliders on top, whereas with the bottom slider we give them some length. Now all I need to do is to add a color mix node, and I need to connect my original image, you can see it on the top socket, and then the sunbeams node output to the bottom socket, and I need to connect this to the viewer, and because nothing happens, because I need first to change the blend mode to add. Alright, now we have our nice sunbeams here. Okay, but then I need to give them a boost to tone map them by adding a color RGB curves node. You might want or might not want this, but anyways, and an easy way for you to get some more highlighted sunbeams is by clicking on this top right node or control point here and move it, drag it to the left. Alright, and you can play with the curvature here, and you get this nice result, except from the fact that those light rays are casted over the chair and the tablecloth, which of course I don't want to happen. So that's why I'm going to be I'm heading over to this. First I need to switch over to my 3D view, of course. I need to select those objects that I don't want for them to have a sunbeam effect, like the chairs and the tablecloth. Let's say the chairs first, and then I need to go over here to the little cube icon, the object data panel, and I need to find somewhere where it writes pass index, and I need to set the pass index to give it a number. It doesn't matter which number, like 1, let's say, for the chairs, but give the same number to the tablecloth and every other object that you don't need to have a pass index, a sunbeams effect. So now that I have set my pass index, I need to enable from the scene panel context, I need to go to the passes and I need to enable the object index. So enable the object index. Now I need to re-render. Of course I have done this before, I have rendered my scene. So I'm going to be adding now Shift A, a converter ID mask node. So I'm bringing that over here, and I need to connect the index object output socket from my render layer to the input ID value socket of my ID mask node. And I need to set the index from over here, the index to set it to 1 is the number that I gave to the chairs and to the table. Then I need to add yet another color mix node. Place it somewhere here, select the bottom color chip, bring the color, set the color to be black, and then connect the output of the sunbeams node plus, of course, the tone map RGB curves node, the output of this, connect it, link this to the color mix node, and then you want to set the mixing factor for this color mix node to be the output of the ID mask node. So connect this one as well. Alright, so I want to connect now this, link this to the viewer so you can see how it looks like. Now we have effectively masked out those parts of our scene that we don't want for them to have a sunbeam effect, like the chairs or the tablecloth. And we have kept the sunbeams behind the chairs and the table. Alright, very important. Now I want to connect this output to the input socket, the bottom socket of the original, of the first add color mix node, and I want to connect the output of this node to the viewer, so you can see now we have limited the effect of the sunbeams to just the area which is in front of the table and the chairs, which is rather probably what we want to get. So that's a very simple example of using the sunbeams node. Of course, In the next tutorial, I'm gonna be showing you how to use the very same node in cycles. This is in Blender internal. It's a little bit different in cycles. I'm gonna be showing you how to use it there as well. And also, I want to show you what you need to do if you didn't have any refraction material like windows, glasses, and things like that. So in that case, there you might need to consider to tone map your image so you can clip the shadows and the midtones and keep just the highlighted areas. So by giving it a big contrast to your image, you can then make it use this as an input for your sunbeams node. Also, you might need to mask out some areas where the highlights cannot be eliminated in any other way. But all of this in the next part of our sunbeams tutorial. That concludes our first part of this introduction to the all-new sunbeams node for Blender 2.72. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial and you learned something from this. If you like this tutorial, don't forget to subscribe. See you next time with a hopefully interesting topic, hopefully soon. Until then, have fun and goodbye.